where are you from and you answer, I'm from Chicago, nobody's going to give you a patronizing response like, oh, Chicago's charming.
Hey, Chicago!
More likely to be, wow, Chicago, or, oh, Chicago. They'll be impressed. Chicago's a town, a city that doesn't ever have to measure itself against any other city. Other places have to measure themselves against it. It's big, it's outgoing, it's tough, it's opinionated, and everybody's got a story.
I took a walk through this beautiful world, felt the cool rain on my shoulder, found something good in this beautiful world. I felt the rain getting colder. Sha-la-la-la-la, 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 sha-la-la-la-la-la.
And I have been coming to the ale house for over 20 years. What can the ale house tell you about Chicago?
Yes, my father did come in. Also I do a lot of crossword.
As late afternoon gives way to evening in Chicago's Old Town, it's time to drink. Though to be fair, almost any time is time for a drink at the Old Town Ale House.
Another favorite of mine is Anita.
The difficult ones are the people.
The chorus assembles to give their opinions on matters of the day, subjects of great import to this city on the lake, this city of broad shoulders, this true metropolis.
But there's no shortage of characters in here. You know, I've lost a couple really great ones. John Fox, the comic, died a few years ago. We just lost Ruben Four Toes, this 400-pound Mexican guy. We just called him Ruben. And then when he had his big toe cut off, and then he became Ruben Nine Toes. Then when he had his other big toe cut off, he became Ruben Eight Toes. And then when he had his leg cut off, he changed it down to Ruben Four Toes. He blames all his problems on the fact his mother didn't give him any titty milk. I mean, these guys, there's nobody coming through the door to replace them.
The Old Town Ale House opened in 1958 and has been serving beer and other intoxicating beverages ever since. Unless you're on the no-shot list, in which case your drinking options have been, for the good of the community, limited. There's a no-shot list?
There is. The only guy that ever got off it is down there now, and it was just because he's a peer. And yeah, we have a fairly extensive no-shot list.
Very extensive, meaning you can drink here, but no shots for you.
No shots.
Just that will lead to no good?
History has shown us that these people should not drink shots. Well, of course, what they do is they go to another bar and drink shots, and then they come over, and then we get the remnants of it.
Bruce Cameron Elliott and his ex-wife are the proprietors of the Old Town Ale House. Bruce likes to brag that he's never had an honest job, but he's a writer, legendary blogger, and artist.
So who comes here? I mean, generally, who are your regulars?
I think the most interesting thing about this bar, on an average night, if you look down this bar at 10 o'clock or 11, I would say the average age is certainly over 40, which is very unusual.
It's really what's missing in my life. I need an old man bar. Is there a common thread to your regulars?
The common thread is of our hardcore regulars. They're basically alcoholics.
Well, I mean, I was dancing around that.
Well, we don't dance here. There's no dancing. The late John Fox, who was my all-time favorite funny man, he came up with the Ale House handshake. The secret Ale House handshake was like in the morning, which was that.
Right. What do you have to do to get barred here?
You know, punch somebody probably more than once.
More than once.
The walls of the bar are covered with his portraits of alehouse regulars, which he mostly paints in the basement next to the beer cooler. More notorious are his paintings of well-known political figures who have, for one reason or another, raised Bruce's ire. They are inevitably depicted in an unflattering, let's say, non-family-friendly light.
Putin has been behaving very poorly, let me put it that way. I mean, but he also intrigues me. Plus, I also have extra satisfaction knowing he would not like what I'm going to do. And that's, you know, that gives you a lot of pleasure.
There is no shortage of opinions at the Ale House Bar, and Bruce's opinions and the scope of his work extends far beyond Chicago's borders.
I'm working on my latest painting is Putin.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
would
Say
like
no
some-
more.
I would
want
like
to see.
some advice because I was thinking of the classic Catherine the Great, hoists, stallions, but let me
There's,
show
there's
you.
ponies involved. I love ponies.
Well, let me show you what I've come up with simply because of the size constraints. And this is, of course, that's our beer cooler and everything.
This is where the magic happens.
Well, this is where, yeah, this is where Sarah Palin was painted.
Whoa.
And originally I was thinking, and I'd be very interested in your input. Originally what I thought was the Catherine the Great, the horses, and he in the receptive position. But then on the other hand, when I put him in a tutu, I thought, I think that I've really uncovered the true Putin. Ballet is very important in Russia.
Right.
And if I painted him naked, that would almost be macho.
Yeah. You don't need the, I mean, presumably tiny genitals.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt about that.
I mean, look, he's got his shirt off. So already
the important
he's
part.
universally identified because he really likes to take his
No,
shirt
he
off.
does, and I took his
Loves.
shirt off.
I think this is an iconic image as is.
I really
I
do.
think it says it all.
I was waiting. I'm glad you told me that because I think I can go full steam ahead now. I'm thinking pastel. I've gotten pretty good with pastels, but this might be one.
Where it's current. And it's got this young guy, really early, and his dad is talking.
All fans of people who follow your blog and know so much about, you know, I know who fixes your walk-in refrigerator. I know who fixes the bathroom. I know who comes in and cleans the floors. And I know the entire morning routine between the Fancy Pants and
Street Jimmy.
and Jimmy. And I know so much about all of these people and just the day-to-day workings. But do you think there's something to be said that, like, you know, the trajectory of your clientele is not, does not tend to be.
It's not ascending.
It's not, it is not ascending.
It's not an ascendance. It's in, yes. And I've lost a couple really, I mean, we've really lost some beauties.
I mean, it's the perils of being a saloon keeper.
Here's my take on that. Bar people do not live as long as vegan joggers. However, they have more fun.
In a city of factions, of neighborhoods, black, white, north side, south, Cubs or White Sox, everybody at one point or another seems to agree on this place, Valois in Hyde Park.
Gotta grab your tray.
Hurry
The
up.
rule here.
I think meatloaf and macaroni and cheese, please.
Of the whitefish, the mashed potatoes, and corn.
Very happy about this. Two of my guilty pleasures on one plastic tray.
Wow, they sure gave us a lot of fish.
So where am I? What is this neighborhood?
This is Hyde Park. This is the heart and soul of Hyde Park.
So if you're running for office, why would you use this place as your staging area? What's the social importance
You
of
will
it?
see every politician, black and white, running for city office will come through here at some point.
Why?
It's just kind of a hangout. You'd see Harold Washington here a lot. I mean, Brock, I used to see Brock here all the time. He spent mostly for breakfast.
The machine that is Chicago politics goes straight back to Emperor Richard Daley, the father, then the son, with a diverse cast of scoundrels in between.
How were things in Chicago? I mean, on the arc of the trajectory.
The problem was that we had the Daley dynasty. We had the old man, and when we had the kid, the not so bright kid replaced him. And he threw a party for his friends for over 20 years, and when it came time to pay the bill, he stuck out the back door of the of City Hall. So it's a mess right now financially. think the one thing about Chicago is you cannot get away with being a fake or a phony. I mean, maybe somewhere out in one of the suburbs, but people see through it right away. And that's kind of Chicago.
What other characteristics of a true Chicagoan would be stereotypically true?
I think you've got to make at least a little effort to not be a pussy. I think you got to be a little tough. I don't think you can just...
You can't be a pussy. Or at least you're making an effort.
Make a little effort. Just not to just, roll over and...
Right.
Down a bar, right?
The drink?
Coming to the ale house for over 20 years. I have multiple sclerosis, and I was leaving a rehearsal from a Red Orchid Theater, which is my theater company, which is around the corner. And I came here, I was really, really tired, and I was talking to Mitt, who's Matt in the blog, and maybe 3 or 4 other people at the end of the bar, and I just remember like falling on the floor. I heard somebody yell, "She's not breathing," and they called an ambulance. And that's kind of all that I remember. And when I came back a few days later, like I walked in the door, but I was like, "Yeah, you're better." And then a couple of the regulars were like, that guy said that thing. And I was like, what did he say? He said, when you were on the floor foaming at the mouth, he said, they said I got really quiet, and he said, "I'll have what she's having." So yeah, so that was fun. But I found out later, what was really interesting about it was that right away my mind was alcohol.
The American cheeseburger. It's the sort of feeling you get when you eat it, that you remember you're sitting with a friend and enjoying a memory that takes you back to long ago when you were young. And as we follow Paul backstage, watching him slowly sip his coffee.
Hey, what's going on, Daniel?
You remember that comedy isn't just about laughs. It's also about coffee and clothes and being yourself.
You guys want to run this scene? Transcendence?
And after all, if we can't laugh at ourselves, who can we laugh at?
I gotta be honest, he usually does it way better.
Oh, come on!
How is it that Chicago has become the sort of the font of comedy? You know, it's a gusher.
Like, it all started with Second City, and then people came here to study. I'd say 90% of the people who are doing comedy right now came to Chicago to study.
Paul Jurowitz, the young man at the beginning of what will presumably be a glorious career.
First, you push me in the pool. Now you call me ketchup dick. I try to be spontaneous one time, and this is what I get. I feel like no one respects me anymore.
Second City opened in Chicago's Old Town in 1959 and almost from the beginning established a probably unhealthy symbiotic relationship with the ale house. You know their names: John Belushi, Gilda Radner, Amy Poehler, Bill Murray, Chris Farley. If you're funny in America, chances are you spent some formative years here, getting the shit hammered out of you, learning, one hopes in the parlance of the trade, to kill.
I tuck my undershirt into the underwear.
Tell me how many times you do it at a show.
Per show, probably 7 times. Gotta be a cannonball, you know, not like a bowl of jello out there.
You know, where are Second City people coming from? All over?
All over.
Right.
All walks of life, too. I mean, it is, lawyers, teachers, with, servers. It's all classes.
Well, look, service, that is a rich tradition. I mean, anytime you find anyone in the entertainment business, one presumes restaurant experience.
I used to be a server. I used to be a cook. I was a sushi chef for a while. I used to be a Segway tour guide. I know too much about that.
Segway tour guide.
Yes.
Wow, you better have a sense of humor.
Paul and I discussed the perilous nature of a life in comedy over some drinks and food at Longman and Eagle, where though the flannels and neck beards are abundant, the food is excellent. Beef tartare, I like that. And who does not love roasted bone marrow? Tête de cochon with blue cheese and celery relish. The good Lord wants you to eat this. Really, he speaks to me all the time. Confit of beef tripe, and since I'm all about vegetables, slow roasted cauliflower with caramelized onions and lentils.
So, Does Second City travel? Do you have a road company?
There are touring companies, 3 touring companies. They're on cruise ships as well. So I did 10 months on a cruise ship.
Oh.
Which is 10 months of looking at the water and wondering, you know, at this trajectory, would the boat pull me under? If I had this much to drink, how long before the boat is out of my sight line?
So that's like a prison ship. I mean, because you can't.
I mean, it's
you can't
real
say fuck
fun
this.
for the first 2 months. You know, it's a lot of fun, hanging out with the crews. You know, there's a lot of, you know, venereal diseases going around.
Right.
And a lot of partying, and there's a bar every 2 feet. And then after you hit the 2 months, and you're like, I want to go home. Mom, please help me.
Man, talk about, you know, battlefield conditions to hone your craft, man. I respect. That is I mean, is that the idea behind it? We're going to send you out.
From it.
When you get back from the gulag, you will be stronger for it?
Oh, absolutely. It's your first time getting paid as a performer. And it's also the largest amount of people I've ever performed for was on a cruise ship. It was 950 people you're performing to, you know, 4 nights a week.
Right.
Places, Act 1.
How are things?
Oh, good. Try putting the game on. The Patriots are playing the Redskins.
Do we know where the dry cleaning is? There's no job that you can liken to this job.
What are you trying to say? Like there was some sort of time travelers?
My hemp business is doing really well.
I think I only had like 4 lines, right?
Is it a kind of supportive? I mean, comedians are not famous for
Stand-ups, specifically, is more cutthroat.
Why don't we all just calm down here, all right? I thought that would get a pop, or at least a reaction.
It's too long.
Does anybody know where my socks are? In the improv community, I think it's a lot more supportive because it's a group
Did you
sport.
say community?
Yes.
Got your back. Got your back.
Got your back. Got your back.
Got your back.
Got your back.
Got your back.
Got your back.
So what if someone sucks?
Improvise.
What if they suck?
Your job as an improviser is to make that person look amazing. That's how you know if you're a good improviser. This was the path of least resistance for me. It was something I fell into that I loved, that I just found out that I was relatively good at. And through a series of mishaps, I found myself in this position. Like, if you'd asked me 6 years ago if I would be on the main stage at Second City, there's no way. I would have laughed at you. So, if this is where it ends for me, I'd be happy.
Maybe the first thing you think of when you think about Chicago is not ass-burning Szechuan food, but maybe it should be.
Well, I think a lot of people come and they think that Chicago is like on the Magnificent Mile, and you know they're like, oh, should we go down to Navy Pier? No.
Right.
Why? So it's nice to go out to the neighborhoods, and there's so many different ethnicities everywhere. So going to places like that is really awesome.
One of my favorite Chicagoans, chef, restaurateur Stephanie Eisen from The Girl and the Goat, and her colleague, Peter Wong, enlightened me. Look, I knew Chicago was a city of very diverse neighborhoods. Everybody says so. But this, I didn't know about. Now I do.
So where are we, and why are we here? I have to say I'm really glad we're here. But what? Why?
We're at Szechuan cuisine. So after going to China, we were just talking about that Chengdu is my favorite place, but Peter's never actually been to Chengdu. And so coming back, then it was like, let's go to Chinatown and try to find places to find those things we ate for breakfast every day.
Pork dumplings and chili oil. Start the fire.
And they're
You
slippery.
get what you got it.
You know why the chopstick is thin? It's not thick and fat. You can just do this.
I thought you're not supposed to do that. Peter, you're supposed to help me know what's what cause.
Yeah, so happy.
One of my favorite dishes in the world, anywhere. Mapo tofu. Yes, a tofu dish, stippled heavily with pork in a burny, numbing 9.5-week style exercise in sadomasochism that will start you thinking some deeply disturbing thoughts.
Do you know mapo tofu? Is it because it looks like spotted grandmother, or did spotted pockmarked grandmother create the dish?
Both.
Both.
Yes.
Right?
My mouth's a little on fire right now, so I think the rice came at the right time.
Yes. Sounds like we are suffering, but actually it's delicious. Yeah, Anthony, try some of this. This is my favorite.
the specialty of the house, fish hot pot.
Nice. All right, here goes. I scraped off some peppers. See if you
Going
can
for
get
the
cheeks
best
out.
piece, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, it burns so good. I could pretty much eat this every day.
Special about it was that it was creepy and that they're always
What happened to me in 1963 with getting this. The summation was that I moved to move him away from another customer, and he backed up and clenched his fist. And boy, when somebody clenches their fist, you know they're really capable of doing something. So I got in the first shot, and then somebody grabbed me by my arms and held my arms, and he got the second shot off. And he re-deviated my septum, which was a good thing. But, you know, he was bleeding and I was bleeding. And, you know, it was camaraderie. We hugged and kissed afterwards and said, oh, I'm sorry, I did that. Well, he's dead now. I don't want to speak poorly about my dad.
that might be on that wall.
We always lived in the hood. You would hear gunshots in the distance. You would get to know about gangs. You would see the graffiti. The people who you were growing up with, playing with, wouldn't be there anymore. It's like, oh, what happened to such and such? It's like, oh, he's dead. He was in a gang. He got killed in a drive-by, or he got shot in a such and such.
Hip-hop artist extraordinaire Lupe Fiasco grew up on the south and west sides of Chicago. But inside, his home was always an island of sanity, a supportive, creative environment.
Well, what was different about your family?
My mother and my father were very intelligent and politically oriented and active. So it you know, I got book smart and street smart, you know.
Floyd Webb is an old family friend. This is Lupe's mom, Shirley. As becomes quickly apparent, she is, along with being an extraordinarily good cook, an extraordinary and determined human being.
Man, this is so outrageously delicious. Wow.
The whole time we're eating, by the way, people are moving in and out of Shirley's small apartment, the place clearly a hub for a tightly knit community of friends and family.
So what age were you when you came to Chicago?
I was 13. The worst thing that my family could have ever done was left the South, was left Mississippi. They should have stayed.
But this was the land of opportunity here in Detroit and the great cities of the North.
Then we were never hungry down in Mississippi. We got here, depending on welfare, whatever, and they became alcoholics, abusive to the children and wives, and the children came out in the streets, and just everybody lost control, and now it's...
What was Chicago like when you arrived?
It wasn't as violent. You know, the neighborhoods were communities, no vacant lots. There were families all over, kids in the street. You could go outside and play and not worry about your children. And somewhere in the late 70s, early 80s, it started to change and become more violent.
July 4th, 2 young men gunned down at a Chicago
More than 50% certain.
9 people shot to death and at least 60 others wounded.
However much you might love Chicago, want to celebrate its general awesomeness, its character, its architecture, its food, there's no getting away from the ugly fact that Chicago's South Side is also currently the murder capital of America.
What do you think people are killing each other in such large numbers in Chicago and not in New York?
Let's be clear, it's only a few spots. This is the whole city.
Yeah, it's the whole city.
It's not the whole city.
To be honest, Chirac is Inglewood.
Right.
Look, it's a pretty staggering body count.
The sad part is that it's been like this, right? And the only reason it's story now is because white people look at it. And it's like, oh, that's terrible. It's like, it's been like this for 30 years. How come it wasn't terrible 30 years ago? But he probably actually could have did something about it.
Does a hip-hop artist have any obligation, really, to speak about anything positive or even smarter than cars, girls, or where's my money?
I guess it depends on where you come from. And then, do you feel an obligation to where you came from? A lot of people in the hood who don't take me serious. You know, they don't take Chuck D serious because at least you take somebody who's rapping about crack and rapping about dope. That is actual thing that they can go get and sell and make money that day if they wanted to. You can't preach to them Black Panther Party or you know, Marcus Garvey or this because they can't go out and get it and actually sell it and monetize it and make some money off of it.
Right.
Despite an appalling murder rate, questionable leadership, Chicagoans aren't going anywhere anytime soon.
The Southern people, we brought our spirit here. So Chicago have like a warm spirit and, you know, loving spirit.
It's a beautiful place. It's a genuinely beautiful place where you have to redefine what beauty is to you when you go to different neighborhoods, and it's really bad. But even in that, there's still a beauty in the people. And then just from a cultural front, you know, we got everything here. You know, we got, if you want capoeira, we got capoeira.
You want avant-garde jazz, we got avant-garde jazz.
You want house music, we got that too. You want just straight finance, and you want to just be a stock market baron, we got that too. You want some of the best food that you'll ever find, we got that too. So we're crossroads, and we picked up a lot of little DNA and things from different places on all fronts.
Started to know people's names and
Some characters you can't write about. Some people.
hilarious, and I knew.
But I've always, my whole life, had a lot of difficulty with these fire plug type guys. And he started looking like he was going to start punching Street Jimmy, who's a guy that hangs around on the street and comes in here. And I said something to him, and he made a move. So I caught him a real nice left, knocked him down. And I never saw a guy make this move before, but on his stomach, he just went, like, squished over, hooked my leg, got on top of me, and started whacking me. And Hawkeye, our doorman, just sat there watching me being pummeled. And Street Jimmy came over and
Making a living hasn't really been what it's been about ever in Chicago. Keeping the ball in the air is what it's about. Just making sure that things keep going, remain viable and sustainable. Nobody's too concerned about making a killing or becoming a star. Everybody just wants to keep doing it.
Is that a uniquely Chicago attitude?
I flatter myself by thinking that people in Chicago care more about what they're doing than what they're getting paid to do it.
One of the things people have always loved about Chicago, of course, is the music. And if one guy has defined rock and roll and punk sounds for the last 3 decades, well, this guy, Steve Albini, would have to be a powerful candidate. Member of the legendary Chicago punk band Big Black and one of the most important producers of underground rock, Albini produced some of the most influential music of the last 25 years. The Pixies, Flint, Nirvana, DJ Harvey, to name a few. He takes me to one of his favorite Chicago spots, the Quebec's. The sample, the particularly unwithholding delights of the breaded, fried steak sandwich.
This thing is...
This is half a sandwich, bear in mind.
That's like 4 pounds.
Yeah.
Wow. We're gonna need a boatload of napkins. There's no delicate way to eat this. You just hoist and go.
The time out of the fryer is also critical. These are still crispy on the outside. This is precisely the way the sandwich was meant to be eaten.
Yeah, that is a thing of beauty and tasty. So you have remarkably unusual for the music industry, remarkably lenient views on music sharing. Your pricing structure as a producer is goes somewhat against the grain of the usual business model. And you were not living in LA or New York, living on a mountaintop, peeing on the, peeing downwards from a great height. What are you, some kind of a communist?
Well, I mean, I have a healthy suspicion of capitalism as a method. I feel like, left unchecked, capitalism is a kind of cultural sociopathy. Like for a business to be successful in capitalist terms, it has to do the best possible job of exploiting everyone that it does interaction with. The end game of capitalism is that everything is crappier and crappier and people are more and more exploited, and I have a healthy suspicion of that. So I feel like the social model that I'm comfortable with, it suits my business practices, which is that we're all in the same game. We're all trying to do the same thing. We just want to make sure that things get better for everybody.
Is that a Chicago attitude, you think?
Well, in my circles it is, yeah. In the punk rock scene and the people who are influenced by the punk rock scene, that's a very common notion, is that you're not trying to extract the maximum, you're trying to make sure that everything carries on.
Is there less douchery in Chicago?
You can find jagoffs. That's a uniquely Chicago word.
Jagoff. Oh, I love it. It's been so long since I've heard it.
If you look for them, you can find jagoffs of all types in Chicago. But the people who are,
thank you so much.
You're welcome. Productive and content and part of an enterprise that is, righteous, for lack of a better term.
Right.
They tend to not just give lip service to the notion of egalitarianism or fairness, but they tend to embody it.
What about the musicians? I mean, how much money does a guitar hero deserve to make?
Well, all of it, obviously, because that's what people are listening to. People are listening to somebody's creative expression.
Characters you can't write about. I mean, some people
around here, nicknames have a sick habit of sticking to you like glue. You don't just dodge them, you just live with it. When I used to bartend the morning shift here, him and this other guy used to come in a bit crazy before it was even like 8:30 in the morning. And this one poor guy was here, and they were like on both sides of him just going nuts. And I'm like, that's it. You guys got to go. But he says, man, you're a real buzzkill. And it stuck to me ever since. I mean, it's carved in stone pretty much.
Chicago is famously a sports town. The Bulls, the Bears, the Cubs, the White Sox. To you and me, those are just names, but to many Chicagoans, a cause, a defining lifestyle choice. The rivalry between Cubs and White Sox fans, for instance, is particularly vicious.
The difference between a Cub fan and a Sox fan is a Cub fan goes to the park, they enjoy themselves, they have fun. The team wins, that's okay. If they lose, it's no big deal. The Sox fan will turn on their team on a dime if they're not good, if they don't play well, if they don't hustle. But a perfect day for a Sox fan is the Sox to win, the Cubs to lose, and then the Cubs plane crashes.
So to what do you attribute this quality of deep, bordering on murderous hatred?
The hatred is basically from the South Side.
Of course it is.
I mean, they hate us like you have no idea. We don't have that vicious intent to them.
Why the viciousness and hatred?
All right, but to be around Cub fans is to hate them.
Well, let's go, Cubbies. Let's go, I can never bring myself to understand their hatred of us.
So they're cursed. Their historic destiny is to be losers.
And like they say, any team can have a bad century. The Cubs are working on having 2 bad centuries.
Right.
Topo Gigio is a massive Italian-American joint in the Old Town that serves up much better than you think old-school stuff like scallops and pesto cream sauce for Bruce here and squid ink pasta with shrimp for Buzzkill. My veal saltimbocca is most excellent, and the long, festering dispute across from me only makes my food taste better.
Is Bruce's attitude atypical or typical?
It's extremely...
Or is he a relative moderate?
It's extremely typical.
I mean, he is sitting at the same table with a Cubs fan.
Well, yes.
No. I drink with Cub fans. I've even had sex with Cub fans. I mean, no.
Well, truth be told, the last time the Sox won it in 05...
Not that long ago, really.
For Christ's sakes, you won one.
This century.
I've been on this planet.
How about this century? We've already won one.
I've been on this planet for 55 years. You've won one. You know what? You guys are worse than Notre Dame fans.
I wouldn't mind winning every 25 years.
Well, cling on to that.
I mean, look, Chicago's a great city.
Yes, it is.
It deserves to win, right? I mean...
The thing is about Chicago sports fans, we got to see the greatest basketball player that ever lived.
We were athlete that ever lived.
In our prime, we got to see this.
Right.
So now we're not holding things up to a higher standard of excellence.
Right.
Now here's where the Cub fans and Sox fans join forces to watch the Bear game.
Right.
That's something we can all agree on.
You both hate the Bears.
No.
I love the Bears, and we just want Virginia to just cash in their chips and just go away.
So let's say the planets the stars align perfectly for Chicago, in your view. What does the sports picture look like? Who wins, who loses? What happens?
First of all, there'd have to be some funerals.
There'd have to be funerals?
Several.
Who would have to die?
I would say the owner of the Bears, and then...
Do you agree with this?
Yeah, and if
more or less.
We hate owners.
Yeah, we all are united in the hatred of the owners.
Well, I wish you both luck.
I just get up. And Roger, he was a very fat guy, always been a very fat guy until, of course, he became ill. But he was an indefatigable walker. He loved to walk. And the reason we ended up here was because in the drinking society that we were involved in at the time, there were not many walkers. But Roger was a walker. I was a walker.
Legendary film critic Roger Ebert was a man of mythic proportions in Chicago. A close friend of Bruce, half of the Siskel and Ebert duo, and a regular at the Old Town Ale House. Roger passed away in 2013 after a long battle with cancer.
I've been sort of conducting an informal poll over the course of the week, asking people who Chicago should honor. If you had to put up a statue, of the sort of an iconic Chicagoan who everybody agrees is a good person. And very popular answer, Roger Ebert.
I would say that I'm a little prejudiced, but definitely Roger Ebert deserves all the accolades he's been getting, justifiably so. Roger's the guy that got me to write the blog, and he's the guy that gave me the tips. He was an amazing guy, and I think, of course, had he not become ill and really handled his illness in a way that I can't even conceive of myself handling, I think that really kind of set him apart from kind of the other iconic Chicago people.
The guy, and correct me if I'm wrong, this was an enthusiast. I mean, this was a guy who actually liked going to the movies.
Now, this is not always the case with critics. They don't necessarily love the people or the subject matter they're reviewing. Roger loved movies, and he loved actors. If you went over to his house, he would want to watch movies.
Siskel and Ebert, classic, that is an iconic relationship. They didn't seem to like each other.
They hated each other.
They hated each other.
Yes, I mean, they understood what they had, but a lot of people think Siskel was the alpha. Mm-hmm. He was not. Roger had two things over Siskel. He was a much better writer, and he was much better read.
So Roger lived principally in Chicago?
Oh, yes.
Chicago area.
And he had, believe me, he had plenty of opportunities to leave. I mean, he was offered some serious dough to go to New York and go to L.A.
Why did he go?
In Chicago, favors are worth more than money and loyalty. In Chicago, this is very important. So Roger is one of the most loyal people. He was loyal to his friends, to his family.
Right.
And I don't have any problem understanding why he decided to stay here.